Hello everyone, thank you for watching. Alyssa Lightman here with Realty One Group Dockside, and welcome back to the Lightman Show. Today we'll be talking about making an offer and what you need to do to prepare for it. We'll also answer your questions, and as always, we'll share my top picks of the week. Make sure you give this video a like, subscribe, and share with your family and friends. And you can also comment with any questions or topics you would like us to talk about in the next episode. Let's get started. Our special guest today has been practicing law for the last 13 years and has founded Grand Strand Law Group for the last 10 years. Please welcome Angie Knight.
Hi, Alyssa.
Hey, Angie. Angie, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you started your business and your law group now.
I started practicing about 13 years ago and just decided, since I was a theater teacher before I started practicing law.
Oh, wow.
And not many people do. But I decided that it wasn't for me, teaching was not for me, and my dad actually suggested that I go be a lawyer. So I started working at a law firm, testing the waters, and then decided to go to law school. After that, that was in New Orleans.
Oh, okay.
And after that, I decided that I wanted to be on the beach, and so I found my way here to Myrtle Beach. This has always been the beach to me, and it's a place that I love. This is where we used to vacation when I was younger, so this is just what the beach is about to me. I love this place.
Oh, perfect. So you've been coming to Myrtle Beach for a long time.
I have, ever since I was about 10.
And you've been in Myrtle Beach for how long?
It's been, I guess, probably about 15 years, maybe, give or take.
Good. Well, what is a piece of advice, or maybe, in your opinion, the most important advice you would give to a buyer nowadays?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would probably say be patient and be flexible. Because I'll tell you, I don't know if I've ever seen a closing go exactly perfect yet, and I've been doing this for a long time. There's always something where a realtor has to step in and help the clients find a solution, whether it's the lending issues or maybe there was a termite report. And you have to be patient, you have to be flexible. If this is the home that you want, then you have to give a little bit. And the same thing for the seller too. If you really want to sell your home, you have to be willing to give and take, and so that you can accomplish your goals. And sometimes I find that clients lose track of that. I often have to remind them, what is your goal? If your goal is to buy this house, let's make it happen.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So very, very important. If you're selling or buying, you're expecting things to go wrong. Not necessarily very wrong, but there's not a perfect process, like you said.
There's quite often hiccups, and it may be a small hiccup, it may be a large hiccup, but if you're prepared to know that there's a possibility that it's not going to go perfect, then you'll keep from pulling your hair out.
It'll make you more calm.
Yeah.
Make the transaction go a little smoother.
And if you remain flexible, then I think that your life will be a lot happier when it comes to buying and selling homes.
Sure. That's for sure. Well, thank you so much, Angie. I really appreciate it. Let's now join the team.
All right, let's go.
Our topic today is about making an offer. So for you buyers out there, once you have gotten a pre-approval and once you have found that home, now you want to make an offer to buy it and move in. So what are the most important things a buyer should think of when they're making an offer?
Everyone thinks about purchase price first, and that's very important, but you also might want to think about what contingencies you're asking for, because that can really make or break an offer, I think. Also, if you wanted the seller to pay any closing costs, that's another consideration. And then whether or not you want to require a home inspection or a termite inspection, all those things can ultimately make or break an offer depending upon the condition of the home, I think.
What type of financing you want is important. Knowing that going in helps you as a buyer figure out what the best type of home to go for and put an offer in.
From a seller's perspective, a cash offer obviously looks great on
Yeah.
paper, right? Compared to an FHA loan. A conventional loan might look better than an FHA, excuse me. Things like that, right?
Absolutely, because the different programs require different requirements for the homeowner. If there's repairs that that are needed, as we discussed in the last episode, they'll have to be completed prior to closing. Conventional doesn't worry about that so much. As long as it's not hazardous or a safety hazard, you should be okay. So those are good points to think about when going forward. And that's obviously a good team to work with would help make those decisions for you as a buyer.
So of course, when you're making an offer, of course you have to think about the price you're offering, but you also have to think about all the other contingencies. And as a seller, you also have to look at the offer the same way, right? You have to look at what their lending is, what their contingencies are, regardless if it is a cash offer or not, right? So can you put an offer on a house that has an accepted offer?
Yeah. What you would know better than I do, Alyssa. It has a name, right? What's it called?
You could have a backup offer.
Right, that's what they call it.
So you could always ask if there is a home that already has an offer on it. Now, 9 times out of 10, you can't. The sellers have already decided, and they're not accepting backup offers. But there are some chances where they are accepting backup offers, and they can show their, either verification of funds or their pre-approval letters.
That's a good point, because you brought up cash is the way to buy. Or for a seller, if another offer comes in that might be a little higher, as long as it's not under contract, correct me if I'm wrong, they could accept a cash offer over a finance offer.
If the contract is not fully ratified and everyone has not signed all the different back and forth
Sure.
Contingencies and questions, and then it's not a fully ratified contract, and they don't have an agreement.
Yeah.
And so if you don't have a full agreement, then you could change your mind and accept the other offer.
So that's another thing, when you're making an offer, make sure you initial everything and you fill everything out correctly,
Right.
so that when the seller signs, it is ratified.
So a lot of times a purchaser will make an offer and the seller will come back with a change, maybe in the purchase price or something small, well, not small, purchase price isn't small, right? But something to that effect. So essentially what they've done is they've made a counter offer. And so unless you accept what they've changed and initial it, then you don't have an agreement. And that's key. That can be really key, and that's where that situation you were just talking about, someone could step in and swoop that house away from you. So if someone is making a counter offer and they've asked you to consider a different purchase price, or I can't think of another good example.
Closing costs.
Closing
or
costs.
Maybe a contingency on an appraisal, for
Right.
example.
All those things, if they are asking you to consider those, that is a counter offer, meaning you don't have an agreement yet. And so until you initial those items, you don't have an agreement.
So how about when it is ratified?
So once it's ratified, everybody is under contract, right? And there are ways to sometimes get out of a contract in those circumstances. For instance, there quite often is a home inspection, and there's a repair section in the contract that explains what has to happen when a home inspection comes back. And so some of those items, if the parties cannot come to an agreement, then they can walk away.
Well, here's another one. Is an offer on a house legally binding? We actually kind of answered that question. If everything is checked, then it is a ratified contract.
And it is legally
Legal.
binding, yes ma'am, and essentially, at that point, one of the contingencies has to fall through, or one of the options for default, getting out of the contract would have to occur. Otherwise, everybody is in contract, and the only way at that point to get out of the contract would be most likely to lose your earnest money to the other party, because you are the defaulting party if you want out and nothing has occurred to allow you to get out. And so if you're the defaulting party, you're most likely going to lose your earnest money. And even then, the other side has to agree to let you out in exchange for that earnest money. Otherwise, you're just in default and they could potentially sue you.
Can they ever get more? I'm sorry. I saw a situation where someone was sued for more than the owner's money for holding up the house for a certain period of time. Have you seen that?
Absolutely, that can happen. I mean, when, for instance, if I were to make an offer to purchase a home, we had a fully ratified contract, and then the seller just said, nope, I don't want to sell to Angie, right? That was the only reason, there's no other reason, they just decided they don't want to sell. Well then, I have contracted with them to purchase a very specific piece of real estate. There's no other piece of real estate like that in the entire world, because it's sitting on that tax map number, right? And so they, by deciding they didn't want to sell, they've caused me damages beyond just not having a house or beyond the expenses that I've put out so far to purchase a house. So technically, yes, I could sue them for much more than the damages that I've suffered based on having to find another location. Because they have taken away something that I can no longer ever get from anywhere else.
One of the questions that we have here is, what if my offer is rejected? What do they do?
So I guess there's two parts to that, right? So we have a rejection and then we have counteroffers. A counteroffer is really a rejection with an offer attached to it, right? And so if your offer is rejected, then your only option at that point is to make another offer. If they give you a counteroffer, then that is a rejection of your offer and an offer back to you. And so your options are accepted or counteroffer back to them. And so there's, you just keep going back and forth until you get an agreement.
That's for sure. So once you make an offer, that doesn't mean that you already got that house. There are a few steps and a lot of checks that have to happen before that contract is ratified. And once it is ratified, it's a binding contract, meaning that you're in the process of purchasing that home, basically.
And there are very few things at that point that can allow you to step away from that contract. If your contract was contingent upon lending, a certain type of loan or getting a certain amount for your loan, and you were therefore then denied your loan, then that would be one of the, if it was a contingency contract, then the contingency would not have been met, and then you could, walk away from the purchase. But they don't like to do that.
No, but I've seen it happen.
Yes.
It does happen.
And a lot of times they can change their lending too, and the seller can be okay with it if the buyer would change the way the loan is done, right?
Sure.
Do you see that a lot?
You do. I was going to ask a question too, because I've seen where people are a day from closing, go out and buy a car. Now they don't qualify. Is the buyer then held liable in that situation? I guess that depends. Does the seller know that they went and bought a car? Well, we would deny them as a lender
Right.
because they would now be out of the qualifying ratios. So I just never knew what the ramification would be for a buyer.
So the contingency wouldn't be met because they wouldn't be able to get their loan, right? However, I guess we'd have to really take a look at the contract and see what it says about that contingency, because if it mentions, words like through no fault of your own, right? Then maybe they're not able to walk away so easily.
Right.
If buying a car obviously was their decision and therefore the failure to be approved would be through their fault.
Right.
But if it doesn't mention anything like that, then they would be able to, the contingency wouldn't be met and they'd be able to walk away. Guess it just depends.
Okay.
And every contract is a little different. Here in South Carolina, we have specific contracts that our realtors use typically, but I still have to go back and read the contract whenever I'm trying to determine a specific issue. I have to continually go back and reread it and make sure that I'm not stating something that's incorrect, because you just have to remind yourself what it says every now and then.
Well, the next one says, what is included in closing costs for buyer? Now, in terms of real estate, you do have a real estate commission being paid, but the seller's party is who's responsible for that cost. So what other costs in terms of lending? What do they need to look for these closing costs or these fees that you guys have, or maybe for you, Angie, for attorney's fees?
Attorney's fees, you're typically going to have, a set fee for the attorney. You're going to have some administrative costs. You're going to have courier fees and things of that nature, UPS. But one of the largest fees that a buyer is going to incur is going to be the title search itself and then the title insurance. And so those are the larger fees, the attorney's fees, title insurance, and title search. Those are the three big numbers on our end that are gonna, increase the cost. And then we've got lender costs too, depending upon what kind of loan it is, right?
Sure, and in today's world, most lenders do have a flat fee, so it could be anywhere from $8.95 to $13.99. And it's a broad range, but it depends on the lender and what they're charging, and some just put it all under one hat, so it's just one flat fee. Exactly. The other fees that aren't really closing costs, but are related to the loan, are the escrows. So they do have to pay for their insurance, and they have to pay that up front. They have to pay for their taxes, and they have to escrow for those. So they're all calculated as prepaid items, but total dollar amounts need to come to the table. So.
And they'll have the interest, the insurance, all
Yes.
these other things that are prorated, right?
Yes.
And that's not a lender fee, and it's not an attorney's fee, but it is closing costs that they're gonna have to come up with when it comes time to close.
Sure.
And then there's also HOAs,
Right.
prorated HOAs, and when you have a loan, there's a certain amount, like 3 months up front that they collect.
The HOA really determines what they want to collect. And so sometimes they will say, okay, we want 2 months of HOAs up front. It just depends.
And it's case by case. And that's sometimes based on the HOA management. Because they'll do a transfer fee, the transfer fee up front, and then they may want a certain amount up front. Because it's not included in the mortgage payment. It's separate from the mortgage payment.
This pick of the week is Turnberry Park at the Legends. The Scottish architecture style community is located in the Legends Golf Resort. With lush landscaping and beautiful architecture, this condominium community gives you the feel of a different world. The resort is located off of 501, just minutes to shopping, restaurants, medical facilities, and the beautiful Atlantic shores. The resort offers great amenities, including a world-class 30-acre lighted practice facility, multiple swimming pools, and a Scottish tavern, the Ailsa Pub. The excellence of the resort does not end there. It carries over to the golf villas, which are surrounded by the parkland course. The villa buildings are all 2-story, with first floor and second floor villas. Each villa offers an open floor plan that allows plenty of sunlight to brighten your day. There are 15 villas available for sale, 1 under contract, and 18 sold in the last 12 months. These villas are priced about $100,000 to $132,000. Average days on the market is 113 days, and 60% have sold to cash buyers in the last 12 months. Turnberry Park at the Legends is a fun community for golf lovers, active couples, and families. This villa is a great example. First floor, all tile, 2-bedroom, 2-bath. With the HOA taking care of almost all the utilities for you, you can't go wrong. Click on the link in the description below to see what's available now. Thank you for watching. Alyssa Lightman here, your host, and until next time, this is The Lightman Show. Thank you.